Oh, okay.
Yep, we are. How's the new job? Good.
Good, good. Okay, so we're on time, so we'll call the meeting to order. And I will ask the sheriff to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. We got the new camera system here. We're getting real high tech. Comes from all angles, so no sleeping back there. Anybody who's, you're going to be on camera if you fall asleep. I trust everybody's had an opportunity to review the minutes of the April meeting that were circulated in advance of today's meeting. So I'll entertain a motion to waive the reading of the minutes and approve them as presented.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
On the question, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. The meeting minutes from April 2025 are approved. Anybody from the public like to address the board on agenda items? Agenda items only at this point. Okay, no one's coming forward, so we'll move on. I'll go to the first motion on the agenda, motion to approve all current payables for the Community Correction Center and the prison.
So moved.
Anybody bringing that up? Because I know Norm wasn't going to be able to be here today, but they were included in the package. So if you've had an opportunity to review them, I'll entertain a motion to approve them as presented.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Current payables for the prison and the Community Correction Center are approved. Now we'll go to the Controller's Report. Mr. DiBileo.
Yes, thank you, Judge. The Controller's Report of the prison inmate and canteen accounts for April of 2025. The Controller's Office reviewed the prison inmate and canteen account reconciliations, which were prepared by the Prison Business Office for the month of March 2025, and found no discrepancies between the reconciliations and the bank statements. The balance in the inmate account was $470,378.61 as of April 30th, 2025. The balance in the canteen checking account was $571,138.26 as of April 30th. In addition, as of April 30th, the canteen account also included a balance in the Pennsylvania Local Government Investment Trust investment accounts of $947,819.85, which earns approximately $3,455 per month, and which will mature next in April of 2025. And during the month of April, yes. I'm sorry.
You said will mature next
Uh,
in April of
In July.
July. Okay.
Did I say April?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. That should be July of 2025.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Yes.
Okay. And during the month of April of 2025, $95,463.90 was paid from the canteen account for the benefit, welfare, and education of county inmates, and an itemized listing of those expenses are attached to my report. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. DiBileo. The other, when will that mature?
The first one is on July 11th.
Right.
for $857,000 roughly, and July 24th.
All right, so we'll put the first one on the June agenda, and we'll put the second one on the July agenda, because we'll have our
Right.
meeting before that. Okay.
Okay.
Anybody else have any questions for the controller? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Motion.
Got a motion, got a second. On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you, Mr. DiBileo. The warden is off today, so who's going to, Colleen?
I'm going to give the report.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Board. The average daily population for April was 689 inmates. 540 were county inmates. We averaged 614 adult males, 3 juvenile males, and 71 adult females. The average daily population of U.S. Marshals detainees was 149. Overtime and out-of-county boarding reports are attached. Our current staffing update, we have 172 full-time officers, 3 are on workers' comp, 1 on continuous FMLA, 88 on intermittent FMLA, and then we have 6 vacancies for full-time officers, so we're at 182 full-time officers. The budget as of April 30th, 2025, revenue was at 47% and expenses were at 32%. Extraordinary occurrence reports, there were 4 extraordinary occurrences in the month of April. On April 3rd, a female was yelling and kicking her cell door. She was then observed with a T-shirt wrapped around her neck and was making suicidal statements. Staff were able to get the T-shirt removed, and she was placed on a suicide watch. Shortly thereafter, she began to bang her head off the cell's walls, made additional suicide statements, and then she made several homicidal statements. A decision was made to place her in the emergency restraint chair for the safety of everyone. On April 9th, a female was banging her head off a cell's door and would not stop when told to do so. In an attempt to get her to stop banging her head and place her in the emergency restraint chair, staff dispersed OC spray prior to entering her cell, then entered the cell and had her placed in the emergency restraint chair for her safety. On April 12th, a female who was on a suicide watch, was covering her camera with various objects, and because of the need for constant supervision, staff had to place her in the emergency restraint chair so they could properly supervise her actions while on suicide watch. On April 22nd, a male who was being committed to the facility was uncooperative with efforts to process him. This person then began to make suicidal statements and followed this with threats to the officers of bodily harm. For the safety of everyone involved, a decision was made to place him in the emergency restraint chair. There was 1 PREA investigation completed in the month of April. It was an allegation of staff on inmate sexual harassment, and it was deemed unfounded. The completed investigation was forwarded to the DA's office for further action if deemed appropriate. We have a commissary amendment I guess we need to review. It's an amendment to the contract between Lackawanna County and Keefe Commissary Network, LLC. The amendment was proposed. It's going to lower the commission rate paid by Keefe to the inmate canteen account from 33% to 26%. The reason for the lower commission is that Keefe will not be providing secure payment services since this is already being done by another vendor. As a result of this, and to maintain current prices, the commission from sales on commissary sales and secure pack sales need to be adjusted downward. So in other words, as we know, Keefe was awarded our commissary contract. Within that RFP, which was then included in the contract, was accounting services. The accounting services are already being provided by ViaPath. That means the process in which funds are deposited into inmate accounts and then withdrawn from inmate accounts. So we had to go ahead and make an amendment to the contract to remove the accounting services. So that meant then we had to lower the commission rates. Finally, we have several personnel issues that need to be discussed and can be addressed if the board decides to go into an executive session. I do have two other things I'd like to add, just noteworthy things. In April, I wanted to note that we had 9 inmates participate in a ServSafe program. So 9 of them did a week-long program with Aramark, and then they were tested, and they all achieved ServSafe certifications. So when they are released, they can use that certification for employment. There's also some part-time to full-time recommendations. We have the openings for full-time officers, and we want to recommend 6 of the part-time officers be moved to full-time status. I don't know if that's something we'll discuss in executive session and then afterward.
I think it's an executive session.
Okay. And then, that's it. That concludes my report.
Anybody have any questions for Deputy Warden Orzel on the report?
I'm just curious, how many of the 9 inmates were female?
They were all males this time around.
Women get to participate in that?
They will. It was the first time we've ever done it, so we did it currently with men that are working in the kitchen. So we will open it up to females in the future too.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve the warden's report.
Motion.
Do I have a second? Second. On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. Thank you, Deputy Warden Orzel. So as the Deputy Warden mentioned, under our new business, there's a motion to review and recommend an amendment to the agreement with Keefe Commissary Network, which would essentially, I think she explained it pretty cogently, and so I'll entertain a motion to amend that agreement. I would, yeah, we did. Yeah. They caught you sleeping on the camera. Okay. I assume there's no issue with Keefe on this, correct? Okay, all right. So I'll entertain a motion to review, to amend the agreement to reduce the percentage. Can you run those numbers past us again, please?
The percentage is going to go from 33.1% to 26%.
Okay.
And the reason being is there's another vendor involved? Am I to hear that correctly?
Yes.
That's because the reduction is caused by that?
Well, the original contract proposal included that service. So because they're removing that service, that includes that reduction in the commission because that was figured into the dual services, the accounting piece and the commissary piece.
Okay.
Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Do I have a second
Second.
on the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it, and that amendment will be approved. Okay? Okay, so I would like to go into executive session to discuss the things that you mentioned. So at this point, I'll ask everybody to step outside, and we'll call you back in.
right, John, I will have, I'll put some couches out there. I'll get them out of Billy and Crystal Dawson.
Colleen, can you give us the names of the people that you want to go from part-time to full-time?
Sure. There are 6 individuals that are currently part-time that are going to be promoted to full-time. Joseph Smith, Shaquana Jordan, Vincent Palucci, Zachary Byer, Jason Heiss, and David Morgan.
Okay. And you want to make, they're all going to be,
Yes, it would be
Proposed.
effective May 28th.
okay, from part-time to full-time corrections officers?
Correct.
Okay. Do I have a motion to that effect?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second on the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you.
No problem.
Motion's approved. I'm still out of this, okay. Okay, next item on the agenda is a motion to hire a new warden.
I'll make a motion that we table that for today.
And the basis,
Further discussion?
okay. I have a second on the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it, so we'll table that. All right, those are all the motions. Now, anybody from the public wish to address the board? Joan?
Joan Hodawanna, Scranton. Well, I'm sorry Tim Betti isn't here today, because I was assuming that this would be his last meeting, but be that as it may, I just want to compliment him on his service as the warden of the prison. He's had to serve several taskmasters, you know, the prison board, the general public, the taxpayers, the inmates, their families, the employees, their unions, and the list goes on. And it's not easy, it's not even possible to satisfy all those competing demands. But I think he was very good in trying to balance everyone's interests. He was very professional in what he did. You may not have always agreed with him, but he was very professional, very respectful of all those different parties. I don't know why anybody would want to be warden, to tell you the truth. It's not an easy job, and certainly he doesn't get paid enough, and I don't know what you're going to pay the new one, but be that as it may, I think you owe him a vote of confidence as he moves into retirement. I think he did a superb job, all things considered, and I just wanted to go on record saying that. Thank you.
Thank you, Joan. I would second that heartily, too. Tim has been a tremendous asset to the prison, to the county, to the board, to all involved over my years being on the board. And his equanimity, I think, is one of his greatest characteristics, because it's not easy to deal with so many different taxpayers and constituents, as we say. So, but he's earned it, and we wish him all the best in his retirement. So, anybody else from the public?
Brown Troop,
Back from Arizona.
back from Arizona. A few days ago, I sent a letter to Judge Gibbons, and so I would just ask if you could have those addressed rather than me standing here reading it all.
Well, I got it Monday, and I forwarded it over to our administrative staff. I don't know if they had an opportunity to develop any responses to those.
I can respond to a couple of them.
Okay.
Thank you.
Find my email. Let me just go through my papers. I have it here. So the following issues found. The first one was that the women were not allowed to shower during our inspection. We had a state inspection last Wednesday. We had 2 state auditors in the facility, one a male, one female. And I believe that it was just asked that while the inspectors were going through the facility that the women don't take showers. Because like I said, one is a male and he was touring all the units. There was a concern about the sewer backing up in the day room during periods of heavy rain. I personally don't recall large, what's that? Oh. I personally don't recall like large backups. I know that there's times when sewer will back up because it's frequent that individuals will put things in the toilet, use it as a garbage can instead of a toilet. I know we had one tremendous rainfall. I don't know if that's what they're referring to, but again, I don't recall anything offhand. But with so many toilets going at once and the blockages, I think it's bound to have backups every now and then. But it's not a chronic issue, and no staff member would ever tell inmates to throw newspapers down. I think that was one of the complaints, that inmates were throwing newspapers down to soak up the sewage. That certainly would not happen. L block, there are mushrooms growing. I can honestly say I personally took the male inspector through the facility last Wednesday, and he went into every single cell. And if there were mushrooms, he would have said something. Women are only allowed 4 sanitary pads per 24-hour period. I know our maintenance department disperses weekly toiletries to every unit, so the female unit is given a case of sanitary napkins and stuff like that. So I don't know how many are given out at a time. I wasn't able to look up that because we were off yesterday, so I didn't talk to anybody today. But my understanding is that they're given as many as they need. There were times in the past where pads would be used to like lift up their mattresses and line toilet seats. So if there's a controlled method to distributing them, I don't know, but I can certainly find out for certain. My understanding is they're given as needed. The safety concern that bunk beds don't have ladders, that is something that had come up in the past, but it doesn't come up frequently. I haven't had any issues or concerns or complaints from anybody. So in-house, that hasn't been brought up. There are individuals who are designated bottom bunk status because of medical issues, and medical evaluates them for that need. But again, we haven't heard anything about any issues or complaints with ladders, and it's not required. Like I said, we had the state inspection, and it's not required that there's ladders. Then there was the last thing about inmate tablet use. The question was, what is the current process for inmates to pay for tablet use? It's just like the phone system. The family can deposit money on their account and they can use their tablets. But again, they have 8 hours free that they can go on a free profile, and then they get 10 minutes free per day for messaging and phone calls. So I hope that answered most of the questions.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
My only other concern is, I was told originally that incarcerated people were able to put the money on the tablet themselves, and now they can't, that a family member has to do that for them. I'm wondering, could it have something to do with the commissary change?
No, so you mean somebody that's incarcerated currently want to put money on their own account?
To pay for time for the tablet. Like,
I don't
you-
think I've ever had anybody that wanted to put money on their own books.
No,
they
the
always
money's already on the books.
Okay.
But they.
Oh,
used to
maybe
be
it was
able to
put
take
on,
the money
there's
off
two
the
different,
books.
I see. So there's the phone profile and then there's commissary. So maybe the money was on the wrong account. But it can be pushed over to the other account.
So
It
the
would have-
incarcerated people can do that themselves,
I don't know if they can do it themselves. They might have to contact the business office.
or a family member has to do it for them.
I'd have to call and check. I'd have to check on that
Yeah, it
myself.
was just my understanding that
Okay.
they used to be able to do that themselves,
Oh, okay.
and now they can't.
Yeah, no, nothing has changed yet with commissary, so it wouldn't be an effect of that at all. So,
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else from the public?
Good afternoon. Leslie Smith, former inmate of Lackawanna County Prison. Regarding the tablet usage, there used to be an option on the tablets where you could transfer your money from your commissary account to the tablet account. That option is no longer functional. A lot of the inmates would like to see that come back. Also, as far as the sanitary napkins, I was there. It happened to me. 4 pads per 24 hours dispersed by the COs. Currently, I'm still in contact with a lot of my girls in there. It's becoming a big issue. They're now using socks as pads because they can't get any more sanitary napkins. The whole issue with newspapers to soak up the drainage because there's no maintenance overnight, and they let that sit overnight. And they said it's very stinky and unsanitary. Also regarding the state inspection coming up, I actually have a message right here from GTL, from the inmates currently that were there during the inspection. They were all locked in their cells, so how did the inspector go and inspect every cell if all the females were locked in? Apparently, there's currently a girl that just got put in the hole for trying to alert the inspector of something that needed to be addressed. And because she spoke up, she's now in the hole. I feel that's kind of unfair and extreme. As far as my own concerns as a former inmate, I think a lot of change needs to happen. I have a gastric bypass, and it took me 7 months just to get a diet tray of something that I could actually physically keep down and eat. Let's see, the medical is still an issue. I know I spoke last month about my friend that had AFib and literally flatlined on October 23rd. She is still there. She's still not getting the proper treatment that she needs. And so I came here today to speak up for her on her behalf because this needs to change. Inmates, we might be in there because we did something wrong, but we are still human beings. And I see dogs and dog kennels and boarding houses that are treated better than us humans. We made a mistake. It's a lesson learned, not a life sentence. And that's all I have to say today. Thank you. Yes, Kelly Adzana.
Anybody else from the public? Bev?
Bev DeBarro, Scranton. Again, I bring this book up, Marked for Life. This is such an excellent book that should be available in Lackawanna County Prison because it pertains to life in the jail and access to the law library. Well, this copy, our Albright Library gets this for me from Abington Library. We can't mail copies in there because this is not published in a paperback format. I've been in touch with the publisher, and they have it online and or streaming. I'm not technological, so I don't know this stuff, but I did request that this be put on our tablets for them to receive access to it that way. Well, nothing has happened because it's still not on the tablets. So please consider that. Also, about the tablets, now they were, I heard this twice, reading a book, start to read a book, and then it stops and says you have to continue, you need access from a library card. And nobody knew what that meant. Finally, after a while, somebody in Bravo, one of the inmates, was able to figure out how to override that. But things just aren't easy in there. Also, we have women that now coming up from Luzerne County. I guess they're over full down at Luzerne. For whatever reason, I have 2 women come up to Bible class, and she says, the first one says, "Where are the books?" She said, "Doesn't every jail have books?" And I had explained to her about the tablets and how we used to have books, but we don't anymore. I said, "How is it down there?" She said, "Oh, you go in, there's shelves of books. You can take up to 6 books and just write what books you're taking, bring them back, and change them in." So again, books would be useful in our jail. I think that's it. I don't hear anything about the work release program or GED, but just do your best, because it's not a good place to be in there. Thanks.
Thank you, Bev. Anybody else from the public wish to address the board?
Afternoon, everyone. I have some questions regarding the U.S. Marshal program that the prison is in contract with. Recently, with the new administration, there's been word that U.S. Marshals are being used for ICE raids, basically. And I wanted to know if any of y'all know if there has been like direct ICE contact with the county prison or ERO, I forget what that is, but they're both under the Department of Homeland Security Investigations Unit. Do you know if that has been, if any of those officers have been coming to the local prison?
I've got no information about that. The U.S. Marshals program that we have is that we house federal prisoners.
Yes.
But there's not a U.S. Marshals
But
presence.
that's usually only after, like a marshal will come and like bring someone to the prison, right? That's done by like officers under the U.S. Marshals program.
They
correct?
transport them back and forth, yes.
Right. So that is, from my understanding, only after they've been arraigned, like they've gone in front of a judge and have been arraigned. Is that correct?
Generally speaking, they can't put them in jail without that. Go ahead.
If I could chime in, I think you're referencing the U.S. Marshals Fugitive Task Force, where they pick up fugitives that there's an active criminal arrest warrant on and bring them to the Lackawanna County Prison. I'm not aware of the status as to whether or not they're assistant ICE or not. I don't know if we'd be able to get that information. I can tell you that the Marshals Task Force works with local law enforcement for violent felony offenses relative to anything involving firearms, gunshots, things of that nature. But I think you're referencing.
Well, I've seen recently reports around Scranton and throughout Lackawanna County and the rest of the region of officers in clearly designated ICE attire performing raids. So they would have to bring the folks that they detain somewhere. From talking with someone in Luzerne County, they're under the impression that they are going to the Luzerne County prison. So that's basically what I'm asking.
If ICE takes someone, just because the federal system, ICE takes them into custody, they're brought to Pike County. That's where the ICE detention facility is. So they wouldn't see a magistrate here. It would be up in Pike County.
Appreciate it.
Yep, no
Thank you.
problem. Yep.
Anybody else from the public? Okay, I see nothing. Anybody? Any members have any other business?
I have one thing. I can't remember who it was, but there was a speaker at the last meeting that asked about the solitary confinement report and asked what our opinion was on it. So I just wanted to take a second, if I might, just to talk about that. So after reading the report, obviously, solitary confinement, also known as restricted housing, is one of the most serious and controversial tools available in our correctional system. I reviewed the data and the report, and the realities presented in that report make it clear that there's no question that the use of this form of confinement can have deeply negative psychological impacts, especially when used for extended periods. With that being said, we must also acknowledge the realities of managing a secure facility. There are times when inmates present a clear threat to the safety of others or to the order of the institution, and in those cases, restricted housing becomes, unfortunately, a necessary tool. It's not something that I think we should rely on lightly or routinely, but it has to be an option of last resort. It's the prison's responsibility to use it judiciously with oversight and clear policy, while continually exploring alternative strategies and supports that maintain both safety and dignity within the correctional system. Reform doesn't mean eliminating every tool, it means using them wisely and with accountability. And specifically from the report, I like two suggestions. The first one on page 27, and I talked to this with Judge Gibbons, was having a class where someone from the prison goes over the inmate handbook with the inmates to make sure the inmates have a clear understanding of all the rules, and that might drive down some of the behaviorals that send them to restrictive housing. Because in the report, it seemed to indicate that the inmates have access to the handbook, but they either don't read it for whatever reason, or they read it and might not be able to comprehend everything in it. Also, it recommends an increase in mental health professionals, which I think everyone would be supportive of. And I think that will reduce the number of inmates who have to be sent to restrictive housing for whatever reason. So I hope that answers your question. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Anybody else have any other business? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. On the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. We are adjourned.